Hello again, everybody, and welcome into the Take the North podcast, along with Dan Wiederer of The Athletic. I am Mark Grote of 104.3 The Score, the Rahimi, Harris, and Grote show, which you could hear every day, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on 104.3 The Score. We've got so much good stuff that we want to play for you, so we decided to do a very special May edition of Listen to This. Does that sound good to you, Weed Man?
It does, and there's going to be a unique twist to Listen to This because I've got some home remodeling projects ongoing. So some of what you're going to listen to is some of the sawing and the hammering of the Cunningham builders trying to get the house in better order for the Wiederer family. So I apologize in advance.
I think people like that. It's very soothing to hear those sort of sounds in the background. And hey, here's the deal. If you don't hear that, you'll probably hear emergency vehicles rolling down State Street where I live and where this podcast is being performed from right now. Or you'll maybe hear a dog barking in the hallway.
You and I are real people with real life problems and soundproof studios yet. Take the North has not reached that level yet. So listen to this power saw that you're going to hear from the basement of my house.
Listen at your own risk is what we were telling you on this very special edition of Take the North. Let's get to it, man, because guess what? We're just getting to know Press Taylor, at least a lot of us. Dan, I know you got to talk to Press Taylor in the hallway a lot last year at Haugh Hall. Unfortunately, I had other duties that I had to perform during those times, so I don't know Press yet as well as you do, but none of us really knows Press Taylor, the offensive coordinator. He was the passing game coordinator previous to this, and now he steps into the Declan Doyle role. And I think the first thing that we should play from Press Taylor is the question of, and you will find out right away why Ben Johnson said, yeah, you're next. You are absolutely next as my offensive coordinator, because Press Taylor, and size does matter. How big, sir, how big is your playbook?
It's pretty big. I mean, I know I have two different 10 terabyte drives that I bring with me when I move, and I give them to the video department, and I don't think they love seeing me come down the hall, but I make sure they load those up for me, and then I continue to add as the year goes, and it builds on pretty good.
10 terabytes, Dan. That's a lot of terabytes that the new Declan Doyle is dealing with, Press Taylor.
10 terabytes times two. There's two 10 terabyte drives. So that's 20 terabytes. That is 20 terabytes that Press is dealing with of videos for the library. Look, I think you can understand why Ben Johnson is excited to continue working with Press. There's a combination of intelligence and organization and really innovation in creativity that's there, where they can put their heads together, have some really high level offensive conversations, and try to figure out what the best way is to use the various pieces that they have in this offense right now. And so I think there's a mutual excitement right now inside that building with Ben having a chance to continue working with Press, and Press stepping up a notch in the role that he has this year. He will be, as we talked to him on Saturday, in charge of leading meetings at the times when Ben has to step away. And I think the players will appreciate the similarities in tone and the messaging that needs to be applied to get them moving in the right direction. But you came out of that little gathering on Saturday and you're like, I really like Press. And I said, I told you would. I think he's really good at communicating and really good at articulating what they're doing. And we're gonna have an opportunity all year long to get his stance and his perspective on a number of topics as this season unfolds for a Bears team led by a quarterback that everyone wants to know more about.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Well, what I think I like about Press Taylor, just, that first impression, is that I believe he, like Declan Doyle, kind of enjoys the Q&A, kind of enjoys telling you what he knows to a certain point, obviously, that he enjoys talking high-level football, and good on Ben Johnson to have enabled Declan Doyle to do that and to have enabled Press Taylor to do that. And look, we all, when Declan Doyle was hired last year as the OC, an OC who doesn't call plays, you wonder, what the hell is he contributing exactly? We have some ideas of what he's doing, as you said, running the meetings and doing a lot of the extra work, getting the plays organized, all that kind of stuff. But Declan Doyle got himself a job calling plays with the Baltimore Ravens after 1 year with Ben Johnson. So in other words, a long winding way for me to say that Press Taylor's job is extremely important with the Bears, and it could lead to bigger, better things for him.
For sure. And with these guys that have career aspirations to, go further than they are now, the forward facing stuff is important. And so like you saw Declan handle that in a very smooth, graceful, mature way last year. And now Press will step into that role where every single game week he'll be in front of the room, giving his opportunity to explain that week's story, or that week's question and answer suggestions as we're going to go through the process here. And so that's it's part of the league, right? And it's part of how these guys kind of find their way up the ladder in various ways. And look, he's stepping into an offense that has an incredible play caller, a very talented quarterback, a pretty established interior of the offensive line, and a pretty good right tackle, and a whole bunch of playmakers. And so it's an exciting time to be the offensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears. They're going to be the team going into the 2026 season. And so if you get a chance to put your fingerprints on the art project, you go for it.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have other coaches and other buildings walking around with the terabytes that are going through Hallis Hall
Not
right
20
now.
terabytes. I mean, no. I mean, 20 terabytes is as much as I've heard in a terabyte.
It's like a pterodactyl. You know what I mean? It could just absolutely crush anybody. So it does sound terabyte sounds very prehistoric to me. But a couple more from Press Taylor on this edition of Listen to This on the Take the North podcast. And Sam Roush, maybe the most interesting of all of the draft picks, just because of where Sam Roush was selected in the third round. And we've all come to understand potentially what his role is in the offense. But why don't we ask Press Taylor what he thinks about Sam Roush's role in this offense?
To be determined. That's the fun part of, we don't have a game for 4 months. So just seeing where it can go with us. Obviously, the year went where there was a lot of 11 personnel, became 12 personnel, became 13 personnel for us. That was something that we felt like that's where our game was trending, or our offense was trending as the season went. So, you see a role from 13 personnel there with the way Durham played. Durham was a very experienced player that could do a lot of different things. We'll figure out what Sam's strengths are, how he complements those other tight ends, and then be able to use as many tight ends or as many different personnel groupings as we need to attack whatever defense we're seeing that week.
Press, to the topic of 12 and 13 personnel, what's your overview of kind of how that's come to life, not only here, but league-wide a little bit more?
That's a great question. A lot of it is just in response to what you're getting from defenses. I mean, there's going to be weeks where it's heavy usage because we feel like, base defense from this defense gets some predetermined looks, maybe less variety. There may be times where if we throw 12 out there and they play nickel, we're in an advantageous position to run the ball. There may be times where if we go big and you go big, depending on who we have and the skill sets of our players, we can spread you out and we can throw the ball. So it's a game by game basis really as it plays out.
Interesting stuff right there. Again, from Press Taylor. And by the way, just for reference, Durham is Durham Smythe, the Bears' third tight end from last year. But Dan, you asked the question about 12 and 13 personnel. What did you think about that answer, and what do you think we're going to see from this offense?
I loved it because it's this is part of the chess game that the Bears are trying to play here, and they're doing it with a couple of guys that can stand at the chessboard and do it skillfully. And you get a really good answer there about this desire now in the modern NFL to try to get the other team's base defense out there because it's giving you some preferred looks. You can utilize it when you've got versatile tight ends that are good at both running routes and blocking. You can use it to run the ball down an opponent's throat. You can utilize it to create matchups. I think back to that 2-point conversion against the Packers in the playoff game where you created a matchup where before the snap was taken, you knew Colston Loveland was going to win and Caleb Williams was going to have an easy pitch and catch for valuable points in a game. And so, you feel that. And when you got an offense that provides the weapons that the Bears provide with the versatility that they have, now all of a sudden you can think about being really, really versatile. And you've heard Ben Johnson use the phrase morph a lot since he got here. And this is part of being able to morph week to week, is being able to play 12 and 13 a lot and then go out there and, just morph to what the situation dictates so that you create favorable matchups. I'll turn it over to you there. And then I have a thought about Sam Roush from the weekend that's worth sharing.
Yeah, well, I was gonna kind of pick up right there because from what I saw of Sam Roush inside the Walter Payton Center, I mean, it's hard to tell. Like these guys they're wearing helmets and jerseys and shorts out there. They're not in full pads, so it's
And
very
playing against 40 guys who will never play in the league.
exactly. So I won't go overboard in talking about Sam Roush out of Stanford, but he moves well. I mean, he's a big man. Cole Kmetish, if you will. And I know that's like the perfect comp because it's not out of the question that someday Sam Roush would replace Cole Kmet. I don't think that's happening anytime soon, but he seemed to move well, caught the ball well when called upon. So just my first impression seeing him, he's a big man that moves well.
You use the phrase big man. Like, I mean, the size is eye catching. The size is definitely eye catching on the field, and you see it immediately, and you're like, okay, the Bears know what they saw on tape, and it's the willingness as a blocker that he has, the tenacity and the ability to do it at a high level is something that they're going to lean into. And you mentioned Durham Smythe a couple minutes ago. I think people in the building have a great appreciation for how valuable he was, even though there's nothing statistically to tell you that in his own resume. There's nothing that, jumps off the page on like, find me your biggest Durham Smythe highlight of 2025. But they know in the 25% of the offensive snaps that Durham Smythe was on the field, that they were getting something and that he was there providing an element that then creates, again, this chess game that you can play at a high level. And so if you feel like you get a rookie that can quickly learn and take on that role and pick up, and a guy that studied computer science at Stanford ought to be able to pick up things rather quickly. Sam Roush feels like he's going to be one of these guys that people scratch their head about on draft night. And then like 3 years down the road, be like, man, that was a really, really good idea to get a guy like Sam Roush as part of the program.
Yeah, it's so funny because Ben Johnson has managed to make third string tight end a sexy item. You know what I mean? Like pop culture on a team. Like when Durham Smythe came into the picture or caught a ball or was targeted last year, like, oh yeah, Durham Smythe. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, wait a minute, who's Durham Smythe? But as the Ben Johnson era moves on, you're going to hear Bears fans speaking differently. You know what I mean? Like this is kind of revolutionizing what we think of as a tight end. You think of your U tight end and your inline tight end. Oh, and then another one, like, so the third and fourth string guys, all of a sudden, Bears fans and we on Take the North are going to be talking about the third and fourth string tight ends on the Chicago Bears.
Well, and right. And in a lot of instances, like those guys are going to see the field a lot more than they did 7 or 8 years ago because of what the league is kind of evolving into in this next stage of the league as they try to, find ways for offense to stay in front of the defense. And that's a trend that has caught a lot of people's attention. And the Bears, obviously, again, they've got some coaches in the building there that are smart enough to apply it to their advantage.
If Sam Roush is not the most interesting person in this draft, then I would have to say it's the other third rounder, the wide receiver, Zavion Thomas out of LSU. And we asked Press Taylor, what do you think about the possibilities with Zavion Thomas?
Do you think the possibilities are for somebody like Xavian Thomas, just getting to know him and watching him and obviously having scouted him, but when you think about that player, what are the possibilities?
I think the first thing that leaps off the tape is the speed element that he brings. Obviously we know he's a dynamic returner. He's got a variety of experiences, though, when you look through his college career, lining up at running back, taking handoffs from the backfield, obviously being out on the edge, playing inside the numbers. You see the speed and you see the complementary aspect of what he could potentially be with our group. He's going to have to go earn it. And that comes in the meeting room first, of earning some trust to get your reps, of showing that you can be trusted when you get there, and then being able to do something with it. So just like anybody, he's going to put in a lot of time, put in a lot of work, and we'll see where he goes as this thing builds.
With Xavian, where would you say his refinement needs to come the most as a receiver?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, none of these guys are finished products. So it's really just growing as an entire player. And so with him, it's going to be different. He goes from Mississippi State to LSU, learns a new system, comes here, learns a new system that's probably a little bit more in depth than he's ever been a part of. And then you're doing it, and it continues. Every single day there's a new install. We're rolling pretty quick. So they're kind of drinking from a fire hose early on. You want to see when that point in training camp where it hits that they're confident. And then you start to see their skill set really flourish. Where right now they're thinking. I mean, every time they break the huddle, they're thinking. Their mind's going a million miles an hour. We know you're not seeing the full skill set yet. And that'll come as they get comfortable and they start to understand what's being asked of them.
Yeah, you know what it sounds like, and I don't mean this as a criticism at all. The fact of the speed part is the only part that everybody is sure about with this player. Like there's a lot to come for Zavion Thomas, and at his best, he's doing everything. But all they know right now is he's ridiculously fast and potentially capable of doing a lot for this offense and on special teams.
Well, they know he's ridiculously fast, and they know he has been used in a lot of spots on the field. So they've seen that. They've seen him line up in the backfield and run the football as a running back between the tackles. And they're like, okay, we can do that. We can use that. They've seen him line up outside and use his speed to threaten defenses. I watched him on Saturday run a deep in route where you were just like, oh man, like Ben is going to fall in love with that if this can be consistently crisp like this, where you get that speed element and then you get a guy that can just create some separation and then create voids either for himself or others by being able to challenge a defense like that. And so that part is very real for Xavian Thomas. The refinement as a receiver, we'll see where it goes. Like we're asking Press Taylor, hey man, how big is your hard drive? Well, we're asking Xavian Thomas, hey man, how big is your role going to be? Right? Like, and that's going to be something that we're going to have to watch, because I do think the initial vision is probably very special teams heavy and very return specialist. But if you can use that speed on offense, and again, it doesn't even need to be with the ball in Zavion Thomas's hands. If his speed can create different angles and attack points for Rome Odunze and Luther Burden and DeAndre Swift and Cole Kmet and Colson Loveland, you utilize that as much as you can. And so now, again, I think in that Press Taylor cut that you heard just there, there's a lot to just seeing him take in all this information, drink from that fire hose, and make sure that you can just kind of retain it all, and not wet yourself after drinking from the fire hose.
Well, Zavion Thomas, speaking of that special teams part, Zavion Thomas did, I believe he said that Richard Hightower is his dog.
Yeah, he did. He did. Yeah.
So they're already fast friends, which means that Richard Hightower, the special teams coach, is high on this guy.
Did you get your eyes on the slim down Richard Hightower on Saturday?
I did not.
I should have been elbowing you and saying, look, there's HT.
The people who I was watching with, I was like, do you guys see Richard Hightower on here? None of them could spot Richard Hightower. And maybe it's because he's so slim. Maybe he just blends in with the rest of the coaches now. But I'm looking forward to seeing the new slim down guy. Is he taking that shot? Is that what he's doing?
I don't know. We'll find out. But it's be interesting to see how he utilizes Zavion Thomas. And I think we might have a cut from Zavion himself about returning kicks, right? Because
we do.
So you want to go to that next? And
and let me just set it up a little bit, because I believe the specific question was about the new rules in the NFL kickoffs, which we all know about, which are different from college. So he's got to get used to that. So that's sort of the theme at first here with Zavion Thomas.
Just learning every day, because it's obviously different from college. So just getting the little gems that coaches been telling me the last couple of days is how I'm exceed the expectations.
You scored 4 different ways at LSU. Talk about your versatility and just do you have a different mindset for each role that you play on the field?
No, sir. I have the same mindset, and that's just put the team in the best position to win. So that's my goal, whether I'm getting the ball on punt return, kick return, running back, outside receiver, slot receiver. It's the same mentality.
Has Ben Johnson shared with you what the possibilities might be with you on the field? Because it feels like you're his kind of player.
Yes, sir. We had a long conversation. Him just telling me what's the expectations here, and hopefully what my role will be is all going to be dictated to me, how grab the offense and stuff like that. So it's all going to be up to me.
How difficult is it out of the gates? Press Taylor was just saying it's like all the rookies are drinking out of a fire hose right now to try to learn the volume that's coming your way very early on.
It's not difficult at all. It's a great coaching staff. They're going to put us in the best position to exceed, so it's not difficult.
When you self-review your game, where do you think, as a receiver, you need the most polish?
It's always room for improvement everywhere, whether that's getting out of my break, whether that's plucking the ball. It's always improvement, so I'll say everywhere.
And there he was. That was the Zavion Thomas. I mean, he's got the right attitude, it seems like, in terms of he's ready to learn, man. He's ready to go.
Well, on draft weekend, they sold how competitive he is, and they were really drawn to just the competitive nature that this guy has. What we saw in front of the room on Saturday was a guy who's really gregarious, right? Like you just felt the energy inside the room when he came in there. He was just very excited to be there. I think when he finished up, he said it was nice to meet all of us. We rarely get that, Grote, in that setting there. So, and he was very polite throughout. So yeah, I think I came to you right after he left and said, man, it would be nice if he was good, because he seems like he would be a treat to talk to every single week inside that locker room. And when you get those guys, Brad Biggs used to have a saying at the Tribune, when there's guys like that, they're having a good camp, right? They're having a good camp.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I agree with you on all of it. Like, he has the base of a guy who could be a thrilling player in Chicago. And I don't have the cut here, but he talked again about Devin Hester. I don't know, again, I don't think he talked about him at all, but Hester was there on Friday when I wasn't there. And Richard Hightower, like he likes to do, he likes to show the video of Devin Hester. And of course, I don't know if anything was clarified about his relationship to Walter Payton, who said that they had said that they were related. I didn't understand what he said at the
Still
end.
A little confusing. I think we're going to have to continue digging on that. And I think we're going to have to get Jared Payton. JP's going to have to be the sort of foreman of that research project here and get us an answer before we get too deep into training camp, because there's clearly some things that need to be figured out on that front. But yeah, man, like, it seems like a really eager kid, and I think the Bears are eager to have him and figure out how they can squeeze the most out of him. And again, I think this coaching staff will be really good in the months ahead of making sure that the role fits, right? Like, that you don't give him too much or you don't give him too little, and that you just find a way to utilize what he does bring to the table.
All right, one more cut, and I know people are anxious to hear about Malik Muhammad, the 4th-round cornerback out of Texas, a 2.5-year starter with Longhorns. We all know that he had that viral moment and his reaction to coming to the Bears or being drafted in the 4th round, where he was just kind of staring it down, did not look particularly pleased about it. But what was interesting to see, as we were all at the Walter Payton Center watching them practice, you could very obviously see that Malik Muhammad was playing nickel. He was playing on the inside. So that topic came up with Malik Muhammad on his experience at that position and what the heck he was doing out there.
It is something different, because I didn't play too much of nickel in college, just on matchups. But it's been challenging for sure. Just learning the whole defense, knowing where all the pieces go, knowing where your help is, learning the insides and outs of it. It's been new, but it's been fun.
And I know it's like super early, obviously, but have they told you that that's where they see you playing, or are they just training you at all positions?
Yeah, they're just training me at corner and nickel. They haven't really told me like that's going to be your set position. They just got me playing both.
What's the hardest part about it?
What do you need to do at nickel that you don't need to do in their outside, or vice versa? What's the difference?
So at nickel, in some coverages, you don't have deep responsibilities. You are more of like a curl flat player or a quarter flat player. So I'll say that's the difference.
Do you think that fits your game?
I could really play both. I mean, it really don't matter. Whatever it is at the DB position that I need to do, I'll do it.
He's confident. He admitted that he's got a chip on his shoulder. Did Zavion Thomas, maybe for being drafted in the 4th round, thought it should have been better. But, look, as we've said over and over, it seems like they are conflicted how they feel about Tyreek Stevenson. So could he actually compete for a starting job? Dennis Allen did not rule that possibility out. Obviously, Zavion Thomas looks at it that way, that he's a starter in the NFL. And hell, man, I don't know what the Bears are doing, if they are just cross-training him, making sure he knows all the positions, which would be common to do. But hey, man, like with Kyler Gordon and his injuries, like you got to have this guy ready for anything, because that might be his best opportunity, at least early in his career, to play on the inside or at the nickel spot.
This is a great time to test those types of things out. It's also a situation where the more versatility you have, the more creative Dennis Allen can be with varying looks up and really making opposing offenses uncomfortable. Malik Muhammad did come in and you feel, I think he said, I'm competitive as hell, right? Like that was his way of describing his game. And then he apologized for saying hell. And then I think at some point we're going to have to tell him that his head coach said, fuck the Packers after the playoff win. You're good. Yes. Like we're not going to use this on Hard Knocks, but you can you can let it fly a little bit. But it'll be interesting. Again, that's another guy you want to see once the veterans get in there. You start getting into the real football here. A little bit of 7-on-7 in OTAs and into mini camp, and then in training camp, like he'll be tested, and we'll know before long how ready he is to truly contend for a significant role.
Couple more things, nuggets before we get out of here, Dan, then I'll turn it over to you for any final thoughts. But the fifth-round linebacker, Keyshawn Elliott, spoke to us as well. He believes that he can be, and this seems realistic, a core 4 special teamer where he is playing every bit of special teams because it is pretty full at linebacker right now. Any injuries, and I could see Keyshawn Elliott being pushed into service. And then one other thing that Press Taylor had said sort of stood out to me, and he was asked about the question of what the biggest challenge is for Logan Jones, the center out of Iowa, who is or is not competing for the starting gig at the beginning of the year. Says it's very clearly going up against pros. That for all of his starts at Iowa, obviously you're going up against a lot of great talent in the Big Ten, but this is a different animal. He believes that just going up against real professional and sometimes Pro Bowl defensive players is going to tell the truth about Logan Jones early on.
And also going up against Dennis Allen in practices, right? Like that was brought up as well, is that like you're going to see a lot of different looks, and how you handle those when your head's spinning and how you kind of process and learn from those every time you get challenged in that way is going to be very informative about how quickly he can grasp the system. Eventually, Logan Jones is going to get it, and they're going to know inside the building when he's ready to go. They don't have to put him on a short, runway to this. They can use as long a runway as they want with Garrett Bradbury here this year, and so that'll be an interesting growth process. One little footnote for me: the next time we talk to our audience, I think we will have a Bears schedule in our hand. That's coming out on Thursday of this week, and the NFL, in teasing, their games are starting to come out. I think we've got Giants and Cowboys as the first Sunday night game in week 1 of the year. So that defeats my mock schedule wish to have Bears Bills in that first Sunday night slot of the season. But they put out the strength of schedule rankings based on the win-loss records of last year. The Chicago Bears have the most difficult schedule in the league when you use the opponent win percentage of 2025 to judge it. That's just something to take note of, because when you play one in a really strong division like the Bears did, and then you get a first place schedule against the NFC, and then obviously what they're going to be dealing with the first place game against the Jaguars in the AFC, you've got a challenge. There's work cut out for you. And it was just jarring to see that. I think I texted you when it came out and said, whoa, This is one of those things where you look at it, and again, judging strength of schedule in May, it never turns out to be that way at the end of the season. So it is what it is. But it just does remind you that there's a lot of good football teams. I think the Bears have 12 games of their 17 against teams that finished last season with winning records.
Hey, again, the hazards of being good. You pick 25th in the first round, and you're going to have a harder schedule. So I'd rather be having this conversation than the alternate, as nice as it was that the Bears were picking in the top 10 of all those years, but unnecessary as far as I'm
concerned. Hardest schedule on that list was the Miami Dolphins. They are not in as good of a position as the Bears are to sustain or to take on that really, really difficult schedule that they will face.
Wow. Well, we made it through without a lot of ambient sound from my hallway or from your kitchen or from the streets of Chicago. I'm going to call it an 8 terabyte episode. I can't call it a 10. I could have been better. Like I always feel like I could have been better. So it's an 8 terabyte episode. I got
to go figure out how many terabytes I've got anywhere in this house. But thankfully, for the last 25 minutes or so, the saws were a little bit quieter and the hammering was a little bit down. And I'll go downstairs and figure out if that means they were just taking too long of a break. And then I got to start, fellas, what are we doing here? We got to get this thing up and running. I need my kitchen back.
For Dan Wiederer of The Athletic and The Score as well, important contributor. You can hear Dan often on 104.3 The Score. For our executive producer, Adam Studzinski, I am Mark Grote of The Score and of the Rahimi, Harris, and Grote Show, saying thank you so much for watching and listening to the Take the North podcast.
Great talk. See you out there.